22 years old, I started my first gym. 10 years later, we have over 30 people on the team and we have a 10-year plan to take our business to 8 figures. Today, I'm going to share with you my 5 key lessons that I learned in the past 10 years of business that will hopefully help you avoid the mistakes that I've made. The first lesson is there is no standing still in business. It's either forwards or backwards. I just remember that I had this figure in my head and I thought that if I could just one day have 500 members, despite how long that would take, 10 years, my life would just be finished. It'll be like the most successful, happiest life I ever live. I get to be able to come to work and do what I love. I get to drive a certain car. I can go start a family. I don't want any more than that. Biggest trap in the most immature way of thinking. The first year we made profit in 2016, I think it was the first time we made like a 6-figure profit. I was so happy with myself. I wanted to just freeze it for a couple of years, but that's also the year that I went into that lease review. Our rent went up by 60% that year. I had this young person idea of like, we're all striving towards passive income. You can work to a point where you just don't have to work anymore and you crack the code and you can just live. So I didn't see this whole business thing as a journey, not so much of a business thing, your whole life and career. It's an ongoing learning and earning process. Not that you get to one spot and just be satisfied with that. If you're making strive towards a destination that you think that it will just be the end of all your sufferings, you're going to be very disappointed. So you have to really fall in love with the journey of getting to that and setting the next one and getting to the next one. A real leader should never negotiate his or her standards. For example, if I want things done a certain way, if something is not done to the standard that I expect it to be done, you have a certain uncomfortable feeling of addressing that, right? But I've made the mistake for many years in my 20s to just silence that voice and fix that myself. So I subconsciously created a lot of resentment for the staff members that weren't meeting my standards. The worst thing is they didn't even know about it. So whether you're an employee or you are a business owner, you have to understand that as soon as a drop in standard is tolerated, that is now the new standard. So if you're okay with that, then tolerate it. But if you're not, you must call that out. As a business owner, it is literally your job to enforce the standard. If the employees have a higher standard than you as a manager, you have a problem. They probably don't want to work for you if that's the case. So you are literally there to enforce their standards, get their standard up to meet yours. You also get to weed out a lot of people that just have lower standards than you. Good staff members are best rewarded by you removing a lot of lower performers off their team. But by you accepting a lower standard, you just told the good staff members that your standards are lower. They end up quitting you. If it's a pay that you're working for someone you're not happy with, I want you to call it out to the boss. Boss, I just want to let you know, I'm not really satisfied with this pay right now, but it's okay. Because if that's all the budget there is, you think that's what I'm worth, I will work towards that. But booking a meeting in 6 months, have a review. If you think I'm still shit, I still accept it, but can we please just have ongoing reviews until I can make to the amount that I'm happy with? So the advice here is whatever it is you're not happy with, do not keep it in. Lesson number 3 out of the 5 lessons, ambiguity is the enemy of accountability. Is when I read this, I realized, it was that massive reassurance. Break it down to the simplest, most practical terms. You will never hear me saying that should be fine. If somebody says to me, hey, let's have a meeting next Wednesday at 2 p.m. They say to me, when that should be fine. I'd clarify, should be, or am I meeting you at 2 p.m. next Wednesday? Because the point is that most people say it should be to avoid the disappointment of just in case it's not met. So people are afraid to make a commitment in case they can't deliver it. I think that's a cop-out because nobody is certain that we can be there at 2 p.m. next Wednesday. But I too am making a commitment to you. So why are you not making that same commitment to me? If not, then we'll just set a different day. On a personal level, when you're making commitment to somebody, especially of a higher status, be careful of using this should. Get that out of your vocabulary. If you're in your 20s committing to somebody older, reassure them, consider it done. When we do a to-do list, we see who's accountable for that, by what date it needs to be done by. It doesn't matter if we fail it. We're putting consequences. If you fail once, reschedule. If you fail again, the job gets taken away from you. That's okay. No one on the team has not failed at something at some point. I just want to change that perspective of it's better to fail at something than not committing to it in the first place. You can't expect people to work hard without giving them something grand enough to work hard for. To all the employees that work for a boss that don't feel appreciated, I'm giving them a pat on the back here. This is why they'll probably like hearing it. How are they going to work hard for something that they don't own? What makes you want to work hard is because you own it, it's yours. And sure, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to let every person own the business, but if you expect this person to give X amount of effort, you have to tie a Y amount of result to it. It doesn't need to be an hourly pay. It can be a bonus, it can be an appreciation, it can be anything. And it doesn't have to be materialistic. If you're a materialistic person, fine, tie it to something materialistic. If it's 10 years, for example, the reward has to be in scale to that. It can't be like I'll buy you a watch for a lifelong goal. No, if it's a lifelong goal, you better promise this guy the moon. If I'm going to build a business in 10 years to reach this kind of impact, I'm going to buy my house, my dream house in my dream suburb. Okay, that's a little bit better. So you have to be generous enough whether it be to yourself or to other people. The lesson itself is if you want someone else to work hard, you give them something grand enough to work hard towards. But if that person is yourself, better give yourself a grand enough vision or grand enough reward to work for that. So I actually learned this lesson from a director at a law firm, a law firm that we work with, a solicitor firm. They also do a lot of my conveyancing work, and I got on the call with one of their directors who's about 10, 15 years older than me, so they're a bit ahead of me. When I started, it was 12 years ago, I think they were just starting with 4 people, and now they have like 40 odd lawyers. And I just had to ask, give me something. And he told me this, okay? So he told me, Wayne, in business, a growth strategy can be the same as an exit strategy. If you said that to me 5 years ago, just shut off and not listen. I never got into the business to exit. I know there are people that get into business to build it up and flip it. That's not me. I don't really believe that you can do a really good job at something, especially in a traditional brick and mortar service business, when your goal is to flip it in a few years' time. You have to love the topic. So if you said that to me 5 years ago, I'd be like, get out of here, man. Like, that's not me. He told me his example was, Wayne, I'm 45 years old at this point. Started the business at 30. Right now, you see 40 odd lawyers working for me because they own the company. They own the company because I was willing to sell parts of my share to them. There are so many 50 and 60-year-old lawyers that get to that point of their lives and realize they want to retire. And then they got no one to sell this business to. Not in the sense that I want to make a last lump sum of money to sell my business, but who's going to carry on your legacy? And at that time, even if they want to sell to their employees don't have the money to afford it or have a model to be able to acquire that in the last year of you planning your exit, because you're too old. So this exit is actually planned as you go on the business. So from day one, you can start to think about this. Your business is growing because other people are growing it along with you while you're exiting at the same time. Right, so you got to be generous, which ties up with the previous topic. Be generous, give some people grant, because that is something grand enough to work for, that you can own part of the business that you've sacrificed so much of your life towards. As they own more of it, you own less of it. But the overall company will grow and get bigger, so you probably own less of a bigger thing. Towards the end of your career, you should have mentored a whole team of younger, driven, passionate, and just fire in the belly people ready to take this on forward. You can sit back and play the mentor role and be like, yeah, I go for you guys. Lonely on the top of the mountain if you take no one with you. If your aim is to grow your life or your business, think of your whole journey as an exit strategy. You are thinking about how to pass on your legacy the moment that you enter it.
Thank you guys for watching. Do not subscribe, do not like the video, and do not click on any of these videos here to get more value. Peace.